So Star Wars Visions Season 2 debuted on Disney Plus earlier this week on May the 4th, Star Wars Day, you know. So I was a fan of the first season. I didn't love it. There was some episodes that I was kind of more mixed on, but when it was really good, it was really, really good. Like that first episode, the duel, perfection. So this season, I don't think I was originally planning on watching it, but then I was like, you know what? Why not check it out? The first season had some really good stuff in it. And I think that this second volume was a vast improvement over the first one, like by a pretty wide margin. So, honestly, the idea of Star Wars Visions, I think it's great. Like bringing in smaller animation studios to just do like little one off stories that I mean, don't have much impact on like the main Star Wars storyline, which there isn't really at this point. But anyway, I think it's a cool idea, and I think it's one of the better ideas to come out of the Disney Star Wars regime because like I'll always have a soft spot for Force Awakens. It's basically just a retread of A New Hope, which is a shame. But yeah, I still like the movie. The other two, not really so much, but whatever. Um, so I'm just gonna give like a rundown of my thoughts on each episode here, brief, hopefully. So first episode was Sith, animated by I'm gonna pronounce some of these wrong, probably Elgiri Studios, and it this I really enjoyed this episode. It had like this sketch type animation where it looked like sometimes it was hard to tell like where things were, like were we on a ship, are we in the woods, and I will admit that was a little distracting sometimes, but mostly it was just cool to take in this unique animation style. And the characters looked great, the action was freaking phenomenal. It had this very abrupt, stark shift to just being really dark and action heavy, where the first like half of it was kind of just this person going about her day, and then it just goes like hard into dark territory, and it was cool. And the concept of this one is like it's a former Sith who's like going has removed herself from that title and is now kind of just doing her own thing, and you know past comes back to haunt her. I'm gonna try to avoid as many spoilers if you want to check this one out, but I don't know. So this one, I think that the former Sith idea is very cool, and I think they do a lot of interesting things with it. So this was a really, really good episode, and I'd say it's one of the best of the season. And then we have the second episode, Screecher's Reach, animated by Cartoon Saloon. Now, Cartoon Saloon's been around for not a long time, but a little bit now. They've had like 5 movies, and based in Ireland, I believe. And it I haven't seen any of those films, but they look very cool. I love the animation style, and this episode in particular has stunning 2D animation. It was excellent, and the it started out as this kind of fun little adventure sort of thing with these younger characters, and I assumed it was gonna stay that way, and then it just gets really dark, really fast. Like as abrupt as the transition to darker territory in the first episode is, this is like because it starts out. I mean, it starts out kind of like it's not like super lighthearted, but it has lighthearted moments where there's like I don't know, like philosophical discussions that happen with these younger characters, and that was cool. Um, but then it just goes into like horror, haunting territory where you get this ghost thing, and then the ghost. There's just some very cool stuff that happens there, and the ending was stellar and kind of frightening at the same time. and it was just an all around very intense, very dramatic episode, and yeah, absolutely one of my favorites of this season. So honestly, maybe of the series as a whole, it was a fantastic episode. The third episode, In the Stars, animated by Punk Robot Studios, it was, I don't know, it wasn't as good as the first two, but I still really enjoyed it. The stop motion was stellar here. Um, the one kind of flaw that I had was that it starts out with these two sisters kind of just going about their day, and then they start explaining events of the past that both of them were there for, and it kind of just it was like an exposition dump sort of thing. But I feel like they could have done that as a flashback at the beginning of the episode instead of like a little ways into it, so that was a little weird. But either way, it was a fun episode where you get this nice bond between these two sisters, and some emotional discussions between them because there's something going on with their mother, and they're like the last of their people, which a lot of the episodes in this season dealt with the oppression of the empire and how like scary they were to literally everyone, and you get to see that a lot in this episode, and it was just I like the ending. It was just a nice ending. It was sweet, and yeah, I don't know if it's one of the best episodes of the season, but I really enjoyed it. The fourth one was I Am Your Mother, which I think is a dumb title, and it was animated by Aardman. And Aardman has done. They're probably the biggest name studio to work on one of these things because they did some DreamWorks movies, Chicken Run, Flushed Away, Wallace and Gromit, I think. Yeah. So I liked this episode. It was just a nice, wholesome story where you get this like teenage girl who's kind of embarrassed by her mom, but yeah, they gotta learn to work together or something. I don't know. It's a kind of a predictable storyline. You can kind of tell where it's going, but it was nice. It was fun. There was a race in there. You get the standard stuck up idiots who think they're better than everyone else, and it was good. It was I'd say it's probably the weakest episode of the season, but for I don't think that's a bad thing here because it's still a solid episode, and it was a lot better than the worst episode of the previous season where there was a, I don't know, rock band or something, and they sang a song to save the universe. It was a weird episode, but this one was good. Also, just one thing I wanted to mention. Wedge Antilles was in this episode. Y'all know Wedge Antilles, pilot from the original trilogy. Iconic character who doesn't really do that much. Yeah. So he was in this episode. He was voiced by the same guy, Dennis Lawson, and he was like a totally different character, and I don't know why. He was like this pompous lunatic who was trying to sell merchandise with his face on it at like all the time. I don't understand why they've made Wedge into, I don't know, Gaston. It was confusing. It was kind of funny, but it was confusing. So that was weird. It's a decent episode. The fifth one is Journey to the Dark Head, animated by Studio Mir. And I think this one had some gorgeous animation, and like one really compelling character in this Jedi dude named Toll, I don't know. But I liked him. He was cool. It not and the action was decent, and then not a ton else about it grabbed me. So it was a good episode. I didn't love it. I don't think it was nearly on the level of some of the others of this season, but it was still good. I really liked this one guy Toll and his kind of his past coming back to haunt him a little bit, and there was some nice banter in there. I guess I don't know. It was fine for what it was. And the sixth one was The Spy Dancer, animated by Studio La Cachette. This one I really enjoyed. You get like a glimpse into what entertainment looks like in Star Wars, and it looks very good. The animation was stellar in this one. There's a fat stormtrooper, which I wrote down in when I was doing some notes. I don't know why, but it was just kind of funny. Someone said I have a bad feeling about this in this episode, so that was cool. And as the episode progresses, you get like a lot more fear and intensity kind of building and building. You get some backstory on the lead character, and then at the end, there's this amazing reveal that I did not see coming. But I see before this reveal happened, I thought, well, what happened? Without going into spoilers, there's something in the lead character's past where I was like, well, couldn't that just like kind of couldn't that come back at some point? And then, yeah, it did. I didn't see it coming, but I did in a sense. I don't know. So it was a very cool episode, and it just kind of got more intense and dramatic as it went along, which seems to be the theme with a lot of episodes in this season. Then the seventh one was The Bandits of Golak, animated by 88 Pictures. I really liked this one. The animation really reminded me of Clone Wars, while still being distinct in its own right. The music was really cool. The action was cool. There was some. It was. The first half was set on a train, so there was this very quick moving action sequence. It got pretty intense as it went along. There was a surprise near the end that I really wasn't expecting. The ending was nice, and like the central relationship here was between this brother and sister, and they just had a really sweet bond. It was nice to watch. And one thing I wanted to note about this episode and a lot of the episodes in this season, how this and some of the other ones got really immersed in the culture of wherever the studio was from. I believe 88 Pictures is from India, and this episode was very reminiscent of Indian culture while still staying true to Star Wars, and I thought that was really interesting. And the same thing applies to cartoons, the Screecher's Reach, I think. I don't know. I noted that about this episode, The Spy Dancer. They got people of the same nationality, to voice all the characters in several of these episodes. So that was cool, and I think it feels natural for what this show kind of does. And then the eighth episode was The Pit. It was animated by Lucasfilm Ltd. and I'm gonna get this wrong. Dart Stagio. I don't know. So this one was really, really, really good. And it started with the Empire being oppressive and evil, as the Empire is. You get some actually menacing stormtroopers, which I haven't seen in a really long time. Probably not since that opening scene of Force Awakens when they burned down the entire village. So that was cool. And those were stormtroopers from the First Order. These are Empire stormtroopers who are usually only portrayed as incompetent buffoons who hit their head on door frames and can't shoot straight at all. So yeah, that was nice. And the episode, it starts out as depressing, but it gets inspiring. It lifts, it builds, and then it gets really dark really fast, and then it kind of just keeps building to this uplifting conclusion, and I think it was very nicely put together. So yes, I thought this was a fantastic episode, one of the best of the season. And then the last one was Ow's Song, animated by Triggerfish. And this was another, I think, stop motion one. That's what it looked like. The animation was stellar in here, and I think the opening where it was like there were like words. It was like a title crawl, but it wasn't a crawl. It was just like words appeared on the screen for you to read. And I think the what they set up in those first three like paragraphs there, it was interesting. Like it's a compelling idea. And from how the episode started off, I was like, well, they set up that, and are they going to do anything with that? And they did. They very much did. It kind of goes into the mythos of kyber crystals, and I thought that was cool because honestly, I didn't know anything about kyber crystals before I watched this. Or I didn't really think about them that much. So yeah, it was nice. The characters were good and kind of like I Am Your Mother, but better. It was just a nice, wholesome story, and I enjoyed it a great deal. So just to finish off here, use my quick ranking of all the episodes. In last place is I Am Your Mother, the fourth episode. It was good. I just didn't connect with it all that much, and it was just kind of wholesome fluff. It was fun, but it didn't have a huge impact on me. Number 8 is Journey to the Dark Head, episode 5. Similarly, not a huge impact on me. 7, In the Stars, episode 3. This one, if it hadn't had that exposition-y problem, it might have been higher, but still a solid episode. Number 6, The Bandits of Golak, episode 7. I enjoyed this one. I just think the other ones are better. Number 5 is Ow's Song. This one, I just enjoyed the episodes ahead of it more. It was wholesome. It was fun. It was nice. Number 4, The Spy Dancer, episode 6, and this one, it was impressive. It layered, it built on itself, and it was good. Number 3 is Sith, episode 1. This was a very, very good episode, and these top 3 here did pretty tough competition. Number 2 is The Pit, episode 8. A stellar episode that kind of just went up and down in terms of its emotion and its upliftingness. So, a fantastic episode. Number 1 is Screecher's Reach, episode 2. Just an excellent episode that I wholeheartedly enjoyed. So, there are my thoughts on Star Wars Vision Season 2. If you want to check it out, I highly recommend it if you're a Star Wars fan and haven't enjoyed some of the recent Star Wars content. Mando Season 3. I don't know why I coughed that. Mando Season 3 was not good. I made a video about it. Check that out if you want to hear me rant and rave like a lunatic. Sort of. Anyway, so, yeah, I recommend this series. Thank you for watching. Keep calm and watch on.